People know what they want because they know what other people want. That was a quote by Theodor Adorno, one of the chief voices of the Frankfurt School. But both before and after Adorno, thinkers and theorists like Emil Durkheim or Marshall McLuhan, or my favorite, Michel Foucault, have spoken extensively about the myriad subtle ways in which hierarchies are in effect, how power is all around us, how it essentially governs our every bodily and psychological move. In 1988, Noam Chomsky and Edward Herman published Manufacturing Consent, The Political Economy of Mass Media. This was a bombshell, blasting apart the notion that the media acts as a check on power, that it serves as a sovereign watchdog. It outlines a systematic and structural function of mass media that is quite different from the general public perception. Herman and Chomsky calls this function the propaganda model, and it offers an explanation for how and why the news media, seemingly independent and confrontational, actually serves the interests of the status quo. They argue that this censorship operates through a series of filters: concentrated ownership, advertising, news sourcing, flack, and an anti-communist ideology. When one or more of these filters are at work, the result is a safe and sanitized product that fails to serve the public interest. But in today's discussion, I wanted to venture into a completely new paradigm that is expanding every minute. I posit that it is a scope, an intangible space or framework of possibilities where the propaganda model of Noam Chomsky and Edward Herman works hand in hand with the culture industry posited by the Frankfurt School. I call it the factory. In modern society, culture is consumed by most individuals through commercial channels. This means we no longer receive our cultural entertainment through physically attending an opera or watching a live play. Rather, we receive our cultural products through corporations or businesses that manufacture these products in a similar fashion as to how physical objects such as furniture are produced in factory lines. When we listen to popular modern music or watch the latest television shows, we are watching culture produced by a few large companies and corporations. These companies almost regularly and methodically turn out new pop stars or famous actors to appeal to different age groups at regular intervals. Pop stars come and go. TV shows like Friends, The Big Bang Theory, New Girl, How I Met Your Mother seemingly end after long runs on air, but are soon replaced by new products that appeal to the same market demographic. In the same way, the culture industry and the propaganda machine work together to rewrite the history of the global south. Take Rumi, for instance, or Coke Studio. In doing so, entirely new and false classifications are created to entertain the modern consumer. Tags such as folk are slapped onto arbitrary curations of centuries-old culture. Where it claims to apparently enlighten, the culture industry rather fixes the consumer into rigid bubbles of know-it-all, bubbles that are likely to never break through. This is the mass deception that Frankfurt School spoke of, and it's directly related to the lack of variety within the culture industry. Art has been reduced into a mere consumer good and thus begins to resemble the capitalist system. These modern forms of art are produced not for the purpose of art itself, but instead for the interests of profit and power. The television shows, films, and music that we consume may on the surface appear all to be different, but in reality, they all follow the same structure. The same product is provided each time, with only minor adjustments made so as to give the illusion of differentiation. The commodification of human consciousness. Adorno and Horkheimer argue that due to the commodification of culture, the human consciousness which consumes this culture has also undergone commodification. Through the increasing uniformity of the culture industry, individuals have lost their ability to think independently. This has resulted in a loss of the individual's ability to imagine a world that is different from what we now have, thus serving to preserve the existing status quo. The industrially produced culture delivers its prepackaged goods such as films and music without leaving any room for interpretation or crucial analysis on part of the audience. In his essay Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, Walter Benjamin argued that art had lost most of its value due to new forms of reproduction. Benjamin believed that when an artwork is reproduced, it is stripped of its unique existence as well as its complete history, its authenticity, its unique position within time and space. As a result, there is a decay in what he calls the artwork's aura. Van Gogh is less likely to invoke in us the same sense of intrigue and awe as he once did, owing to how easily his art can be reproduced. We see this in the changing form of photography. In the past, people appreciated photographs for their cultic value. The photo's value was primarily derived from the remembrance of past individuals. The aura of a photograph came from faces within a photograph. Artistic photography, or even journalistic street photography, has however changed that process in that pictures no longer focus as much on the faces, but instead their meaning is often derived from contextual information or subtext provided around the image in the form of captions. We can, of course, easily relate this with advertising. On the one hand, the propaganda model shows us that advertisers essentially pay for us, the audience. That is, we are just as much products as the commodities being advertised. There is a vested economic interest in buying airtime or boosting ads on Facebook or Google. So, what we find in these commercials are not only manufactured desires towards capitalism's commodities, but that they, like the culture industry's homogeneity, are formulaic copy pastas, regurgitating established, laser tested, precise marketing strategies. Five Filters, an ensemble of exiled theorists who had revolutionized how we can understand culture as a tool of control, as a tool of propaganda. One big factory.